Hi Mustafa, thank you so much for coming to the Globe and Grind podcast that's powered by Hostelmatch. I'm your host Abhijit. I'm the founder of Hostelmatch and I'm very happy to invite Mustafa to the podcast. So I've known Mustafa for a little while, it's been over a couple of months, and his entire story and background is very exciting to me. So wanted to call you on here. We have a lot of backpackers that have subscribed to our podcast. So they'll find a lot of value in some of the things that you do. But just to give an introduction about who Mustafa actually is. So Mustafa is the marketing manager at Toronto Business Development Center. He's also the founder and CEO of Expat Canada, which is a non-for-profit that helps communities and different aspects of like rural areas in Pakistan. So it's a fantastic thing to be part of. He's also one of the few people that I know who's traveled to all 10 provinces in Canada. Even Canadians can't say that in today's day and age, so that's really cool. One of the things that we're going to dive deeper into, and something that I'm personally very excited about to chat with, is about his Instagram channel with extra fries. I follow it religiously. I've been seeing him going on helicopter rides, so I'm jealous. I've also been seeing him getting a lot of brand deals. Shelby is one of his favorite brand deals. Every time you come to the office, he's giving you Shelby coupons. So thank you, Mustafa, for coming to the podcast, and we're very, very excited to have you on it.
No, thank you for having me, and I've known Abhijit for a while. I see his LinkedIn post all the time, and it was only a matter of time before we sat together and have a chat about our experiences too.
No, I agree 100%. And before we start, I think we'd love to learn from yourself about who you are, how you've come to this journey, because I've looked at your LinkedIn as well. You've had a lot of marketing experiences in different areas before you came to TBDC, before you've started Expat Canada, but also at the same time starting your channel as well with Extra Fries. So can you talk us through your entire journey of how that came about and how you are who you are right now?
Yeah, for sure. And for each segment of my journey, there's always been a purpose, a passion behind it, and there's always been a push in terms of marketing. So I lived in Kingston before. I did a master's from Queen's University, and while I was at the university and about to graduate, I started looking for jobs in marketing, and my resume all had companies from Pakistan, and nobody cared about that. Even though if I was pretty big back home, they didn't care. They couldn't resonate. They didn't know who they were. So I asked a few career counselors and a few alumni, what's the best way. So they gave me a few advices which I keep them close to my heart and follow them, even though I'm pretty much settled now, but still. They said, even if you volunteer or have part-time experience, just go out there and get your resume built up for Canadian experiences. And that's what I did when I was in Kingston. I reached out to lots of nonprofits. I did a few gigs here and there, but all in marketing. So in 6 months, all that Pakistani experience I put at the bottom, all the Canadian experience were there. And it really helped me because when I applied for jobs and people were like, oh, you work for this company, I know somebody there. And that really helps us get to the door. For marketing, I started with that. I started freelancing. I started doing part-time jobs here and there. Eventually, I got a full-time job in it. So that really helped me through. Fortunately, I was in Kingston during the pandemic. And Kingston had, because it's a small city, small town, everybody knows each other. They were doing lots of programs, lots of helping in small businesses support. So I got a lot of experience through that as well. And eventually, I decided that it's time to move back to the big city. I came to Toronto, and that's where I got this stuff done.
So, Mustafa, you mentioned you've been to 10 provinces in Canada, and you've traveled a significantly high amount as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how that came about? Because traveling 10 provinces is a big deal.
Yeah, no, for sure. Before the pandemic, I've been to all the famous places in Canada.
Niagara Falls?
I'm talking about outside Ontario, Montreal, Quebec City.
Correct.
These are the must-dos in Canada. Montreal, Quebec City, Banff, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Victoria. So after the pandemic, summer came and things started opening up again. And when you were stuck inside the pandemic lockdowns, I used to watch a lot of these walking tales and all these videos about Canada, and then these new airlines had come in as well. So I was like, I want to travel. I've always loved traveling, but because I didn't have a renewal of PR card, I couldn't go outside the country. I was like, you know what? Let me see what's in the country. At that time, I didn't even know the names of the other provinces.
Oh, wow.
I was like, these are such difficult names to remember anyway. So Lynx Airline had recently launched, Flair and Swoop were running. And surprisingly, the cost wasn't that much. It was like $250, $300 return trip. You go on a Friday, you come back on Sunday night. I was like, this is very interesting. But these places, any person I ask, okay, how's Winnipeg, how's Regina, how's Moncton? They're like, oh, we've never been. We don't know. Yeah. We've not heard anything interesting about it. I was like, you know what? Let me go and see what actually is. So the first place I went to was Winnipeg. Right. And it wasn't that far. It was a super cheap.
You started with Winnipeg?
Like after the 4 provinces.
Oh, okay. I was like, that is a very random place to start from.
Once all these provinces were done, and I also did go to Banff and Vancouver again. So I went to Winnipeg, and surprisingly, it wasn't that bad. They had a really good museum. They had a riverfront. There's lots of history over there, lots of political things that happened in that area. I did a river cruise as well. So I was like, not bad, like this place is kind of like underrated. It's a good place to live as well. Right. Skip the Dishes had expanded to Winnipeg. I was asking them like, what famous companies have come out of there. So Skip somewhere started from that area as well. So I was very interested to know more. Then I came back looking over. I got another cheap deal for Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, I've heard the most weirdest stories. So I was like, okay, I've heard that it's the most flattest land ever and it's agriculture and all. But I did know some people who moved from Toronto to Saskatchewan they got a good job over there. So I knew somebody there, so I was like, okay, I'm willing to go there. Regina and Saskatoon, they're not that far from each other. So I was like, okay, one trip I can do both cities. When I went to Winnipeg, it was just Winnipeg. I was like, let's see what's happening on the East Coast. So once I scoped out the whole map, I knew in one trip, I can do 3 provinces. Yeah. I can land in Halifax. Me and my friend, we can drive to PEI and then come back towards
Newfoundland.
New Brunswick.
Oh, New Brunswick.
New Brunswick. We can touch Moncton and we can come back to Halifax. It's very underrated. I really like Halifax. I was like, this place is so nice. The waterfront is amazing. Food is really good. People are pretty chill. And I was like, Halifax, for some reason, I never heard a lot about it.
Correct.
So there was this bus tour that I did in Halifax. That bus eventually became a boat.
It's from the Vietnam War.
I don't know what it was, and I didn't even know that it will go into the water. Yeah. So my friend booked it, and the bus was just going around the city. We were just enjoying, taking pictures, and the driver was like, now we're going to go into the water. I think this guy is joking. It's a prank. What's happening? Yeah. I did see that the bus was a bit different design, but I was like, it's Halifax. I don't know. The bus went into the water, and then the engine turned on, and there's a big splash once you go into the water.
That's correct.
I was like, we're sinking for sure. But that was a pretty interesting thing. I saw like a lot of boats in Halifax. The bridge was really nice. So then we went to Prince Edward Island, very small, Charlottetown, really nice beaches. The funny thing was, it was a big tax that we have to pay on that bridge. I never knew that. You have to pay like $50 to cross.
To Prince Edward Island?
Yeah, and there's a whole history on that bridge. So anyway, we came back, really nice. I really like Prince Edward Island. New Brunswick was nice. I did want to go to Bay of Fundy, but short on time. We came back, and even Nova Scotia. There's so many other places like Cape Breton that I didn't manage to go, but I've heard so much about. So once I came back to Toronto, I was like, okay, 9 provinces are done. My next vacation has to be in Newfoundland, St. John's. And Lynx Airline, it was going back and forth every week. Super cheap ticket, $250 return. I was like, done. I went to St. John's. St. John's, I would say, is one of my favorite cities in Canada. It just has a different vibe. It feels like you're in Ireland or Scotland, someplace. The Atlantic Ocean is amazing. There's some whale watching. You see a lot of icebergs over there.
I agree. And there's also a lot of, as you mentioned, like a lot of fish and whales and stuff.
And the food scene is good. So in all these travels, what I made sure was I don't have any luggage, for sure. Right. I have a backpack, because every time I have luggage, then it's a whole process. You got to wait till everything comes back. Yeah, and I was always on the budget. I was like, okay, for Canada, I'm not spending that much.
You're living like a true backpacker, being on a budget.
So that bag I still have with me, Adidas bag. You're going somewhere for 2 days, 1 extra jeans, a few T-shirts, 1 jacket you already wear, just in case, everything done. So St. John's, there was this point at the top.
Oh, I know exactly which point you're talking
that
about.
video. So everywhere I went, I blogged, and I was the first one to blog about these places. Like, I feel like I put St. John's on the map for some reason, because I posted that at that time. North City Canada, Curiosity Canada, they all reposted that video. So,
Oh, wow.
so if you see on my page, there's a features tab, highlight, and you'll see all these videos. So I just made like one video, and people were like, this is Canada, and that was the easternmost point of North America. You probably
Right,
might know
right.
that one.
I know exactly the point you're talking about because
Yeah.
I've been to the same point with my dad, funnily enough.
Yeah.
So he was struggling to get up there. It's a hike, so it was a fantastic view because when you're there, on the one side you see the entire St. John's,
Oh, yeah,
which
colorful.
is the colorful buildings, and the other side is the ocean.
Yeah.
So, and then you have these weird looking ships that are like these sea ships that are like getting all the fish.
Yeah.
Which looks so weird because it looks like a tower on one end and then there's just a flat surface on the other end, just parked in front of you.
Yeah, and even, I think, I'm forgetting the name of that place, but it was a fort, so I did see a lot of cannon.
Oh, yes, yes.
And all that.
That is, I believe, some anthropology museums up there.
Yeah.
From what I remember, I think that's what it was because I went there 2 years back.
Yeah. No, I remember like so once I came back from St. John's, everybody was like doing like an interrogation with me. You went to St. John's? Why? What's there? What's happening? And
Right.
then like a lot of my friends, they eventually did go there because I thought, if you're on a budget and you don't want to spend that much, it's a bit of a flight, like it's 3.5 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's worth it. Like, I'll guarantee you it's worth it. And everybody, they did whale watching, they did all these things. Food scene is amazing there, the fish and chips. So people really liked it. And I was happy that, in spite of hearing nothing about these places, in spite of people discouraging me to go there, they're like, just go to Vancouver again, go to Calgary again. I was like, I've been there, I know what's it like. I want to see something new.
Right, right.
And also, so when I did my citizenship eventually, all the places that I had to read about, I'd already been there.
Oh, so you knew all the history, which is
Yeah,
easy.
because every time I go, such as Winnipeg has, I think, one of the best museums in Canada, and I think it's the $50 note or the $20 note that there's a picture of it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I had learned everything already. So when I was going through the citizenship information, I was like, oh, these places I've been there. So when I gave the test, I was so confident. I was like, yeah, it's going to be piece of cake. Finished the test, I got 100% marks. Because I was like, these places are not just something in a book, it's something that I've lived. There's a lot of history as well, but other places like, oh, this happened in Winnipeg. I was like, yeah, I was there. They have a statue of this guy did this and that. Also because I used to live in Kingston. Kingston was not a lot of people know this, but Kingston was the first capital of Canada. So they have a lot of historic buildings, St. John, Andrew, I forgot his name.
St. Andrew.
No, Andrew McDonald's, something like that. He was the founder of Canada. He used to live in Kingston as well.
Interesting.
So I knew most of the information about that beforehand. Wow. And with just a backpack and a few $100 every month, I was able to complete all that. I do want to go to Yukon, Nunavut, and Northwest Territories.
Right, right.
It's just that from Toronto, I wasn't getting a direct flight, but I've seen the pictures. It's amazing.
It's a tough flight. I think the time when I went, I actually was in Vancouver, and I took a cruise to Alaska. And then there's this stopover that the cruise does in this place called Skagway. So when you get off Skagway and Yukon is like 35 minutes away. So it's a very weird feeling because you've stamped your passport to go out of Canada. And then you get out of the cruise and then there's a train that takes you into Yukon. So in the train, they're like re-stamping your passport saying that you've entered Canada again. And then you come into Yukon. So it was a fantastic experience.
Amazing. No, that is something on my list. And even that train that goes from
Calgary
to Vancouver, man, it's so expensive.
The open air train, it's beautiful. Like really, really good.
Yeah, I keep watching those videos and I'm like, one day.
Well, it'll come through.
Yeah, I hope so, soon. Nice. All right, cool.
You've talked us through your journey in marketing as a whole as well, and you moving to Toronto. how did your channel with extra fries start? I think that is something that I'm very curious about, because the first time I met you, you told me that you have a food blog, and that like struck me as very, very interesting. So
Yeah.
how did that come about?
So the funny thing is that, everybody in Toronto, and I've heard this a lot, like, it's an overnight success, it's a hit or a miss, sometimes you're lucky. The food blog actually started in 2016-17 when I was back in Pakistan, even before I came to Canada. My passion was always in food and, discovering what's new coming
Right.
and, sharing the best deals in town as well. As you know, I was a student, we were always on a budget.
Correct.
Everybody wants to know, how can I get like a decent size meal, cheap meal. So I started covering through that in Pakistan, and eventually once I moved to Kingston didn't have that many options, but Kingston does have a fact that I think it has the most food restaurants per capita in Canada, because it's like a small town, lots of restaurants. So the food scene was pretty good over there.
Right.
So I started to that, expanded. Wasn't that much of a focus when I was in Kingston. It was something on the back burner. Once I moved to Toronto, and I came to Toronto with a plan, I knew that once I come here, I'm going to expand it. There's so many opportunities here. There's so many agencies, so many events happening all the time. The food scene is insane in Toronto. I feel like it's one of the best in North America. Cuisine, you get so much variety in every cuisine. Like, even if I want, let's suppose, Pakistani food, I know there are places where I can get northern Pakistani food. There are places I can get southern Pakistani food. I can get Karachi-style Pakistani food. I can get Lahori-style Karachi food. So it's insane. This is just like, I'm talking about the GTA overall, including Mississauga, Brampton, and Scarborough. So once I came in here, I started reaching out to a lot of people, and then I was very happy that they were very accepting about, okay, you're going to give you a shot, here's like a barter deal, whatever. Eventually started from that, got a lot of followers, people liked the video. I started making short videos, making more high impact.
Correct.
And eventually barter turned into paid campaigns, signed up with lots of agencies, signed up with lots of event organizers, and it's about over-promising and then over-delivering.
I thought you were going to say it's about over-promising and under-delivering. I'm like, I don't know if that's the saying that you're going for.
The difference between me, what I feel, and the other bloggers is that other bloggers come to enjoy the event.
Correct.
I come to cover the event. Let's suppose I went to Garba or Diwali. I go to the event, I take a lot of videos, I see a lot of bloggers, they're enjoying it. I leave early, I go home, I edit. By the time the other bloggers reach home, my video's already up there and it's getting views because it's the first one. So I always work on the first mover's advantage.
Right.
And that has helped me a lot. Like, if you see my, if you see the Taste of India video that I posted with Preeti Zinda, it's almost at 700,000 views, lots of engagement, because I was the first one to post it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that brand has recognized this. So when this is the same company that does Diwali, it happens October end, happening tomorrow. So they were the first one to ask me, okay, can you make a video for Diwali? Once I make the preview video, I think it's at almost 550,000 views already. And then I see all the other bloggers, their videos coming in. But Instagram algorithm, you never know what's happening.
Always changing it. Every other day you come through and they've just changed the algorithm for Instagram.
So I stay with a few things that, one thing I keep in mind always, if I'm at the event, I try to do live stories at that time.
Right.
To go home, edit and stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take a washroom break, go to the washroom, sit, just do the editing while everybody else is enjoying.
No, that completely makes sense. But you mentioned a little bit about, you came here, food scene was pretty popping. But like, to be a food blogger or a food content creator, it's a lot of work, because a lot of my good friends are food content creators. You have to have a real appetite to eat a lot of different kinds of food. You need to go out, start at like different journeys. Initially, you also don't get brand partnerships, so there's a lot coming out of your own pocket. So can you walk us through what that experience was like when you were starting out as a food blogger? And obviously, like, once you start to pick up, that's when the brand deals come in. But what were the initial phases like for you?
So there's a lot of reaching out. If you reach out to 100 brands, for example,
correct,
you're going to get a reply from, I would say, 25, 30, and eventually those would convert to 5 to 10 brand deals. The good thing about my location in Toronto is that I live central, so it's easy for me to commute. Most of the time I just walk to the places. And the thing about Toronto is that even if you take Queen Street, for example, Queen Street, King Street, Yonge Street, there's so many brands in between So I always target the brands which are in, if they're doing a barter, so I make sure that they're in a walking capacity. If they're in Scarborough and Mississauga, so I make sure that some budget is involved to at least get the commute cost done. And the other thing I always do is that, let's suppose if a video of mine is trending. So you might have seen that I post on my story and I put a number, 500K views, 200K views. At that time, that's the time when I reach out to all the brands. Because once they read my message, they come back to my profile, they look at my story and they're like, oh, this guy has really popping videos, doing really well. So it kind of eases my way into the collaboration. They're like, okay,
That's smart.
This guy's kind of like a big thing. But it takes time. When you're new, you need to have some kind of portfolio. So sometimes there were some brands that I really wanted to be on my page. There's a restaurant on King Street called Louis, very expensive.
I've been there, yeah.
They have this size of a cake. So I bought that cake slice for $70. But I knew that video's gonna go crazy. So that video was shared by so many pages, got like more than 250,000 views, lots of engagement. And that video I use as a sample to other brands. So there is some investment, but you have to be like very smart on where you're investing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that actually makes a lot of sense. So I don't know if I've ever shared it with you, but I also am kind of a influencer when it comes to the aviation space on TikTok.
Okay.
One thing that I'm personally struggling with is like with food, you have a lot of local options.
Yeah.
With aviation, there aren't as many local options because every plane company in Canada is somehow getting bankrupt. So you don't have as many local options as per se. So what advice would you have for someone like me reaching out to these brands to be like, okay, let's do a collaboration or a partnership?
So for a brand, like I've also been on the brand side for a few companies that I used to work for before. So I know as a brand what you're looking for. So
Correct.
If an influencer is covering all that, so I'll give you an example. Once I send a message, I'm like, okay, I'm a local food blogger, here's a portfolio, here are my top performing videos that resonate with the brand, like it's a similar category. And then I'm like, in this much budget, I can come to your location, commute cost is covered. I'm going to post a few stories about your location, behind the scenes, your top performing items. I'm going to make a whole 20, 30-second video on my Instagram, TikTok, and even potentially YouTube Shorts. And I'm going to leave a Google review. So for some brands, the Google review part stands out because I have a level 8, and I'll share a story of a Google review incident that happened. I worked a lot to get to level 8. Once they see I'm a level 8, they're like, okay, this guy is pretty big on Google, his reviews stand out. And then I'm like, all this in a package together for this much price, and then we start negotiating, and then they're like, okay, for some brands, it's like, you can come to this time, this date, and what I've done this year in 2024 is that for some reason I was eating a lot, so I was growing a tummy. I was like, okay, let's venture out from the food scene. I was like, okay, what else is there in Toronto that is doing really well? Healthcare, lots of spas, lots of head massages, lots of interesting things that are happening, like floating therapy. There's a Japanese style spa that I went to. There's a Thermia spa in Whitby, really nice. You spend the whole day there. So I started venture out to those brands. They were really accepting. And because it was a new industry, I didn't ask for a lot of budget. I was like, let's start with barter. Let me just get that experience in. Then I started reaching out to experiences.
Correct.
All the immersive arts that happen in Toronto. I sometimes get tickets. I go there. It's very fun. I cover them. And sometimes those tickets are expensive. I'm just happy I'm getting that covered. And then through that experiences, I eventually reached out to the helicopter company.
You got that sponsored?
So they paid for the helicopter ride.
Oh, that is fantastic.
And now once I came back from the helicopter ride, I talked to the pilot. He became a good friend. He told me, all about that Billy Bishop Airport. And I knew if this video works well, this was in the summer, I could potentially get another one for fall and winter, and then for cherry blossom and spring.
Right.
So that video went really well because I know that people love to see Toronto from the sky. You see all the buildings, you see the island, you see the whole view. So then I reached out to him like, our fall colors here. Could I get another ride? So the good thing is that he always makes me sit in the front seat.
So
I can get the best view.
Correct.
So I went back, I took the fall video, and this time I rephrased. I was like, it's like you're taking a taxi, and I showed a lot of highway videos. Everything was jam-packed, so that worked really well as well.
Oh, because you're going to get the opportunity cost of going in a helicopter during
Yeah.
a commute.
So the other thing that I ventured this year into is like just showcasing what's happening in Toronto in terms of TTC delays, some random things happening on the street. For some reason, those videos have done the best.
Oh yeah, people love to complain about the city. I'm one of them.
People love to
So
hate on the city.
that is very true. There are a couple of things that bond people together, and hatred for something common is definitely one of them. And
Yeah.
when you look at Toronto as a whole, there's just like a lot of things have been going well. Like the food scene's really improved in Toronto.
Yeah.
When you look at like activities, a lot of new activities have come in. But like on the other hand, safety is becoming a little bit like, I wouldn't say an issue, but it's not as safe as what it was like maybe 10 years ago. When you look at the homelessness in the city, there is a lot more homelessness in the city as well. So from that perspective, like I think people are finding like these common faults that they can critique on. If you go on the Gardner Highway, it's going to take you 2 hours to get to Mississauga during peak traffic time. So it's definitely something, and the idea and strategies that you've kind of built around it of like hitting those, you can even say like pain points from a content perspective, like that is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
So when you're giving advice to, let's say, someone novice, so Hostelmatch is a platform that helps backpackers find the best hostels across the world. The customers that we service are backpackers. A lot of people travel for longer periods of time. And generally, what they end up doing is when you're traveling for longer periods of time, they love to blog about their experiences when they're traveling. They love to go review certain restaurants that they're eating at, or they'll showcase kind of their accommodation that they're staying at. So for people like those who are just starting to do that, maybe it starts off as a hobby and they want to turn that into an actual business, like what advice do you have? Should you go in with intention? Like, is there specific things that you should look out for before you jump into that?
Like relating to the audience, I would say.
Right.
Invest in an iPhone. That's one thing I would say. And a stand, a holder, some lights. There's like a whole equipment box that you can find on Amazon, Temu. Invest in that. Once you have that done, see what other videos other bloggers have done that have worked really well. For me, it's like I watch long form content, but it's in a way like there are only a few bloggers that I can watch long form. And then I watch a lot of short videos. So short videos, 15 seconds, you showcase, okay, these are the top, a few clips of all that. It's about how much value you're giving to your audience. Okay, here's the location. Let's suppose here is there some museum, something. Here's the price. Here are the timings. Here are the top things to see. All that comprised into one. And for most, it's just, if I see somebody enjoying an experience that I also want to enjoy, that kind of kicks in. And if there's a call to action, a link, they get some commission out of it. That's good too.
No, that completely makes sense. And also with short form content, right? Like there's been a massive shift from long form content to short form content. There's been, the average time someone spends on their phone looking through a specific video is reducing. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on, like, you mentioned like you have to provide value, but what are your thoughts on how someone can provide value in that specific like 4 or 5 seconds initially to grab, let's say, someone's attention?
Yeah, you probably might have seen all those funny videos that come in with these effects, like someone's throwing water and there's a whole effect that comes in. A chicken is falling from the sky and all that. So you can do things like that to grab attention, but for me, for what I do is that I have a whole series called Toronto 101, and it just has the location on it, and it starts with the most exciting shot. Like, let's suppose if I'm at a restaurant, I show the flares and everything from the cooking. So that starts off. Another thing that I've seen is that some people, they write everything in the caption, and the last second of the video just says more information in the caption below. And people just see a short video, pause it, and then they have all the places. Let's suppose if I'm in Toronto and I show a 10-second video, 1 second each of all the museums in the city. And then I tag all the museums in the caption. So the museums also reshare. I write all the location, what the museum is about. Let's say Bata Shoe Museum, Royal Ontario Museum, Casa Loma. So all that kind of, it all varies. Like I would say, like when I started blogging, Instagram just had the photo option, and you can only post one picture. So
I remember those days actually.
Yeah. So as it changes along, you have to be very adaptive.
Right.
If you're creative and innovative at the same time, and you have that first mover's advantage, you can get on things and, get a lot of reach out of it.
No, that completely makes sense. And in terms of relationship building, right? The space works very heavily on the relationships you build with, like, let's say your partners, your vendors, people who are trying to provide content. So how do you go about like sustaining and building those relationships in a timely manner so you can get the content in time, have the first mover advantage, but also at the same time actually provide value to your viewers?
So it's the same thing, like you can either enjoy the event or you can sacrifice it.
Smart.
So there's some events that, if there's a Garba night, I don't really dance, but I can just watch them dance, take the video, upload it.
Correct.
It's done for me. If Diwali is happening, it's not that much of a celebration that I do.
Right.
But I attended. I like to see the fireworks. So last year when Diwali happened, as soon as the fireworks hit at Nathan Phillips Square, I recorded. I was the first one on Instagram to post that video.
Oh, wow.
Because I posted it from right there. And that went really well.
So you edited it on the spot?
Edited on the spot. Like I was walking and editing. I hit a few people walking, but that's okay.
Call someone an alcoholic? What am I saying? A workaholic?
Yeah, jaywalking, people are honking. I was like, I don't care. So it comes out of sacrifice and a compromise. For me, because I live nearby as well, it's easier. I know. So the difference I've seen between me and a lot of other bloggers is they all live outside Toronto, in Brampton, Mississauga. So by the time they go home, they are, they have the coffee and all. Then they start editing and posting stories. For me, I just do it right there and then.
Right.
So it's always on the go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, that makes so much sense to me. And, even a lot of the advice that you mentioned, I think I'm going to personally take it into my way of creating videos as well, because I think it's very valuable piece of information. A lot of new things are coming up, and when you kind of go and venture into your own niche, like it definitely does help in regards to how you can, elaborate the content that you have. So thanking you so much, Mustafa, for coming on the podcast. Is there a shameless plug you want to do for your Instagram channel for our viewers?
I mean, my page is with extra fries. Follow and, like all my content.
Definitely do.
And share it. And if you find anything interesting, share it with your friends. If you have any advice for me, you can send that to me on, DMs. And I'm always happy to reply. If you want to learn something, I'm always happy to provide all the equipment that I have. Happy to let you know what I use. But I've seen there's one blogger that I've seen in Pakistan, and he did a comparison. He said, I have a phone and I make videos. This guy has an office, has lights, has heavy equipment, has mics and all. These are my views. These are his views. They're the same. My investment is zero because I already have a phone. His investment is whatever. So you got to think about how much you want to invest and how much time you want to invest as well. Because I have a full-time job. That's why I'm always on the go. I don't want to take it the next day and edit it. And, it's going to take a whole thing. And anything can happen on the work day. Some new project might come in. So I always try to, it's like first come, first out. You don't want to keep anything on storage. And one thing I would suggest everyone, if you're coming into this space, buy an iPhone with a big memory. I only have 128 GB.
Oh,
I was in the helicopter.
I feel you.
I was making a video and my phone said not enough storage. I was like, if I come down without any video, this guy's going to kill me.
That's true. That is true.
So while I was on the plane, I was deleting old videos from a concert I went to, and I was deleting chats on WhatsApp so that
It's a concept, but it's just something that I never thought of as an actual advantage when you're going ahead and building content. So I appreciate that quite heavily. So thank you so much again.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.